Alex Lifeson has released 3 very cool instrumentals put together in the 1990s, with the added note on his website, more to come. Keep listening to this episode, part 2 of a summer Rush-themed doubleheader, to learn more.
Podcast starts now.
This is part 2 of the podcast doubleheader about Rush tidbits and snippets. There's no debate that Rush fans want more of anything that might be available that had not been previously released. We've also heard many times from both Alex and Getty that there is no such vault of unreleased material. But there might just be something that comes close. In part 1 of this doubleheader, we talked about the potential use of sound checks and warm-up material for a new album. Now we turn our ears and Rush fandom to alexlifeson.com, where 3 new instrumentals from the 1990s are available. Under the heading The Lurks Demo Archives, the songs Cruise, Banjo Bob, and Serbs are playable right from Alex's website. Each is very cool. Alex introduces the demos as having resided in a music folder for over 20 years. He says they were created for personal fun, and found that now is high time to share those creations. And for that, thank you very much. Jim McClellan added a hand with his talent on the skins. Other than that, this is all Alex Lifeson circa 1990s. I think that after you listen to each, you'll agree that these are very cool, with Groove sounding a little like ambient music in a late-night lounge, which is not necessarily something we would have associated with a typical Rush track. Well, as cool as all this is, Alex goes further, posting that there's more to come. This upload of his old demos is only part 1. Okay, now this is what I've been talking about. There is stuff out there, Rush and Rush-like. While the band has declined to officially release this stuff over the years, implying its unfinished status just didn't meet the band's expectations and standards, this is the real stuff that people want today, that fans want. Stuff that allows fans to connect with the human element of the musicians that create the whole of the band. Material like this, and like the warm-up and soundcheck material that we discussed in the previous episode, illustrate the human toil and fun of being a working musician in a group that strives for excellence while also responding to fans. Not to mention wanting to share one's creative output. And here's where we get to the central point of this episode and of the entire doubleheader that it's part of. How about a Rush podcast? The spirit of the podcast. Vital signs. Or things could easily evolve into an internet-based series of webisodes. A sort of behind the scenes, and why such material is being issued now, how it came to be, revisiting the moments when the demos or the soundtracks were performed. I love Alex's website and the material he's sharing, so why not an official podcast, solo or with Getty, or an official Rush podcast for that matter? You know, the more I think about it, the more I like the spirit of the podcast. Kind of has a nice ring to it. Visit stephenchristiansen.ca for more episodes. This podcast is available on all major platforms and podcast streaming apps, including Anchor, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and TuneIn. I'm Stephen Christiansen. Thanks for listening.
Production of Stephen Christensen. Podcast complete.